switching gears slightly, you are a passionate advocate for cinema. Mm-hmm. Cinema as, you know, this major concept that drives so many of us. And yet I think that our relationship to the cinema and what cinema is, how we define it, is challenged, it's changing, mm-hmm. It's under fire. Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear you sort of share with us sort of your view on cinema today and how we sort of hold on to it, mm-hmm. but how we sort of also let it evolve and mature and grow and change in front of us, and what you're thinking about in that regard.
I have a kind of, my guides in this inquiry are my children, right. who are now 16. They're twins. And when I started to see, I mean, they're like lab rats, really. My poor kid. They're very grateful, though. They get it. When I first started sort of thinking about cinema for them, I started to really examine my own desires about cinema for myself. And also I started to become really interested in being a programmer. Yeah. And we started making some film events, which I'll tell you about maybe in a second. But it was really to do with the children and seeing them, seeing their eyes opening. And I started to think about what cinema, what it is, you know, why is it good for the soul, and what it asks of us and what it gives us. And in a nutshell, what it is for me is this amazingly humane opportunity to put yourself in the shoes of somebody else. Right. It's no more complicated and it's no less powerful than that. You go in, all goes dark, and you put yourself into somebody else's shoes and see through their eyes. And that means the filmmaker, although it can also mean the people who are being, if it's a humanist, you know, if there are humans on the screen. But mainly it's you put yourself, as a filmmaker says, come with me and see what I'm seeing, and I'm going to show you something that you may not have thought of before. And that's just mega, that's so powerful. Even a painter who can do it, you know, can do less, because a painter only at one time is showing you one frame, but a filmmaker can take you into an experience and an existential atmosphere that may be a trip for you. It's a transport, you know, it's like a magic carpet. So anyway, like, this is how I feel about cinema, I'm sorry. It's like really highfalutin, but it also, by the way, involves Herbie Rides Again. It is the same thing, you know, and I think a lot about when, I think the first film that I ever saw, Herbie Rides Again, I think I was about 7 or 8. And there was this very seminal moment for me when my son, I was asked to deliver a thing at the San Francisco Film Festival, the State of Cinema address. Yes. And I'm so lazy, and I mean, it felt like a big piece of homework that I was not into. And I was on the verge of constructing this response, saying, thank you so much for the honor, but I really can't do it. And I'd read this request as State of Cinema. It sounded a bit like I was being asked to, they needed somebody who would write something about the industry or, you know, fiscal reports or something. And I had thought, no, I'm not for that. And I was just about to reply to this letter, and I went up to say goodnight to my children, and they were 8.5 at this moment. And my son, who's a very fanciful being, said to me, I was giving him a dream. I was sort of going like this and saying, you know, here's a dream, and I don't know what I was talking about, some sort of unicorn or something. And he suddenly said to me, Mama, what were people's dreams like before cinema was invented? And it was unbelievable. And I went downstairs and I wrote this reply, and I said, hold for horses. And I wrote this piece. And this really, his remark totally blew my mind, and it made me think about what it would have been like to have been born before cinema, what your consciousness might have been like before cinema, and how lucky we are, and how we must use it and nurture it. Anyway, I don't know whether that's really what you were asking me, but that's sort of how I feel about it, and I'm just constantly looking for ways of retaining that experience for people.